everybody? Welcome back. Parent Trap, still here, still kicking. Ready to throw some things out here for you guys. Just had another parent consultation, and I just wanted to kind of just dive in and get some things off and express kind of what occurred and what happened. So, as you guys know, videos aren't, weekly anymore. I think I kind of gave you guys everything kind of about ABA strategies, consequences, antecedents, all that stuff that you need to have a solid foundation and to have a solid base. And so periodically I'll be hopping on here just to kind of impart some, words of wisdom or interactions that I've had with parents or families, just so you guys can stay up to date, right? Or you guys can stay in the loop of not only your situation, but situations that I've come across, with my experience, and also things that can kind of help you guys throughout your process as well too. And so today we're just going to be jumping back. I don't know if you guys, hopefully you do remember that family I talked about maybe 2 or 3 months ago, right? The family in crisis. If you haven't, go back to those prior episodes, check it out, and then it'll catch you up to date today. And so that's an ongoing situation. I'm still there. I'm still providing parent consult, parent training in that situation. And it got worse, right? And so I think we always think like things will get better, right? Waving the magic wand and the confetti, and, I go there once or twice, and then all of a sudden there's no more behaviors. But in this situation, and usually the situation across the board is, it gets worse. And so in this situation, it did. And so giving you guys a quick background, kiddo's been off on vacation for 2 weeks, nothing but, being at home with parents and little brother. They got a new dog as well too. It's been raining in California for the past 2 weeks, so no really outside activities, no things to kind of entertain us throughout the day. And so this family's been kind of stuck at home for 2 weeks, and we've seen a huge increase in behavior. This behavior led to, ultimately this behavior led to dad slicing his hand open. I think there was some property destruction going on at the time, maybe a lack of control, and dad may have punched the wall or punched a dresser, or something occurred where the behavior got to a certain point. And the dad lost control. And so he has stitches, had to get wrapped up, blah, blah, blah. And so I walk into the home today, and we kind of go over what happened, what it looked like, and I'm talking to family. And the first thing dad kind of mentions is that, yeah, I lost control. The mantra that I had set for myself previously, I didn't even think about it, and I need to do better. I lost control in the moment. My child saw that, my wife saw that, but it was just one of those days where I hit my tipping point, and, I, punched something, or I hit something, whatever the case may have been. That happens. I'm not in my consultation saying, hey, you shouldn't have done that, or hey, don't do that. I'm in there reflecting with parents. I'm in there giving alternatives to parents. I'm in there trying to identify triggers and other nuances or variables that could change the potential outcome of not only their behavior, or not only their children's behavior, but their behavior as well too. And so we kind of talked about it. And so talked about it a few minutes. Wednesday's over with. Now we're on to today. And so today, what I really wanted to express to you guys is more so of parenting and emotions. I'll preface this with, I'm not a parent. I don't have kids, don't have children. But when I do go into these situations where I am consulting parents, I tell them that I'm only coming through a behavioral lens as a BCBA, because that's what I know best. So I tell them, based upon the rapport that I have with them, like, excuse my insensitivity at moments, or if I may not be understanding you as a mother or a father, but right now I'm focusing on my expertise. I'm focusing on what I know and what I went to school for and what I've got my degree in and credentials in, and all that is through a behavioral lens. And so talking to parents and the rapport that I have with them, they totally understand that. And so when I do say these things that I'll mention here in a little bit, they are understanding of where I'm coming from. And so today, prior to me going in there, the kiddo was engaging in about a 30-minute, 40-minute tantrum, screaming and yelling. As soon as I walked in the door, you can hear him screaming, yelling, I don't want to do this. This is stupid. I hate it. I need help. Somebody, blah, blah, blah. And he's screaming and yelling, probably scale of 1 to 10. He's probably like an 8. So it's pretty audible. And so I get the rundown from staff who was actually there today and parents as well too on what's going on, what were the triggers, and what's, the plan of action after that. I go in there and I go upstairs and mom is in there. I guess the kid threw all his books onto the floor. And so mom is in there and she's like, all right, Jake, hand me the book. And every time Jake handed the book, he put it up and put it back on the shelf. And he's screaming and yelling throughout this, but he's compliant. He's engaging in compliant behavior throughout that. And so then I step into the room. And as soon as I step into the room, he sees me and then he goes and gives mom like a big hug and kind of buries his face into her. After that, I take a step out. They continue to put the books up. No more yelling and screaming, by the way. Continue to put the books up. He finishes that task. The second task, as I've mentioned in the previous episodes, were, make his bed, brush his teeth, and get dressed. And so he started to wind up again, attention-seeking behavior. Mom removed herself from that location, and I just put myself where she was. And mind you, every time, and I'm sure you guys can catch on, but every time my presence or he sees me, his behavior suddenly switches. And so the second time I go in there, no more crying, no more yelling, no more screaming. And I say, hey, Jake, I'm going to stay here. I can stay here an hour. I can stay here 5 or 6 hours. It doesn't really matter, but I'm going to stay in your room until you start doing what you need to do. And, a few seconds later, he kind of, whispers, okay. He gets up, starts getting dressed. I go out of the room. He gets fully dressed. I tell mom, okay, hey, mom, come back in. Place the demand. Hey, it's time to fix your bed. Take off the sheets, blah, blah, blah. She goes in, gives that one command. He starts attention seeking again. She removes herself. I go back in place, or at least invisible sight of him. He continues to take the sheets off the bed, do as mom is told. Mom comes back in. They finish the bed. Last thing they have to do is brush teeth. I'm nearby, so he knows I'm here. He feels my presence. Goes in, brushes his teeth, ultimately receives his reinforcement. And so at the end of all that, and what I'll explain to you guys today is pretty much the main event, right? It is why we do what we do and why I told you guys, I look through only a behavioral lens when I do consulting. And so after he completed all that, and that probably took, out of the 45-minute tantrum when I got there, it stopped within maybe, as he saw me immediately. And then to complete all those chores maybe took about 10 minutes, I would say, for him to complete everything that he needed to do. So I go downstairs. I'm like, all right, cool, team meeting. Let's wrap up what we just saw and what we did. And so I asked parents, I'm like, hey, what switched? Like, why did his behavior just stop or decrease? And mom was like, well, I think he was calming down. I think he was just exhausted from that duration or that period of time where he was just yelling and screaming. And then he finally calmed down. I was giving him a hug, et cetera, et cetera. But then I think it was also because you showed up, Mike. And I was like, correct. You're correct. As soon as he saw my presence, his behavior switched. As soon as I stepped in the doorway, his behavior switched. As soon as I came back and forth and he knew I was there, that 45-minute of getting nothing done to 10 minutes of getting 4 things done, that's a switch. That's a change. And I told parents, that switch lets me know that it is strictly a behavioral episode, that this is strictly an attention-seeking episode. And you know why it is that way? Because by presence, changed his behavior to a complete 180. Because I was present, and what we later found out is the kiddo thinks I'm scary, or he's scared of me, or he doesn't like when I'm there. And so when I show up, it's like, okay, here comes Mr. Mike. You know, here comes the bad guy. And so, okay, if that's my role, that's how he feels. Okay, I mean, it is what it is. But nonetheless, my presence changed his behavior. And because my presence changed his behavior, that lets us know that what he's doing prior to me showing up was all attention seeking and was all purposeful. Because if I showed up and his behavior was maintained, then that means no matter who's in this area, no matter who comes, no matter who shows up, they're going to get it too. I'm going to yell, I'm going to scream, I'm going to aggress, I'm going to SIB, I'm going to property destruct, whatever it may be. That is going to continue no matter the environment or not, no matter the variable that was introduced. But because his behavior stopped as soon as he saw me, that let me know, okay, this is easy, right? As a BCBA and you're hearing this, as an RBT or supervisor, you're hearing this, it makes sense, right? Because that stimulus changed the behavior, right? I can drop a phase change when Mr. Mike was here and then when Mr. Mike wasn't. When Mr. Mike wasn't, there was a 45-minute non-compliance episode. When Mr. Mike was there, he completed 3 tasks. So that literally goes up and then it goes back down, right? And so my presence was the change that triggered the change in the behavior for the child. And so I'm telling parents, he is doing these things on purpose. He is doing these things because he knows he can, and he is doing these things because he wants to manipulate the environment and the situation. And so what I always tell you guys is that we need to stick with our guns, no matter how loud it gets, no matter how verbally aggressive it gets. I heard they tell me recently that now he's telling the parents, oh, I'm going to murder you. I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to kill you. All these things. And so parents have been more reactionary because that's another level, that's another button, that's another trigger of theirs that they don't want to hear, and it becomes a safety issue, right? And so I told parents last week when they mentioned it to me, has he physically tried to hurt? Has he physically tried to stab or kill or murder or all these terms? Has he physically tried to do that? And like I said, I'm only thinking through a behavioral lens right now. And I told them, if he is not attempting to do those things, then we need to put this on extinction as we have done the previous behaviors. As we have done when he says, I hate you. As he's done when he says, you know, I'm going to hit you. He's just raising the bar because he wants another reaction, because what has previously worked is no longer working. So let me up the ante, press your buttons again, and create another trigger for you to respond to me. And currently right now it's, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to murder you, I'm going to do this and do that. And you guys are responding. So now he knows, okay, cool, I got my parents. And so as that new behavior increased, of course, the parents' stress levels have increased, because now that's all the kiddo says now. That's all he goes to. And so I told parents, I'm not being insensitive in this situation, but ignore it. Don't pay any attention to it, just like you did the other verbally aggressive behaviors prior to. Because we don't want to go back into that cycle of being reactionary to something that has not happened, or there has been no illusion of it happening, or there's been no evidence of it even going to occur. And so now that we identify that it was a simple behavioral episode, no matter the severity of the verbal aggression, no matter the severity of the screaming and yelling, the next thing that I wanted to talk about with parents, and I think is most important when I do have these consultations and talk to parents as well, is separating parenting from emotions. And I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, but hopefully you can rock with me and figure it out together. So parenting, right? And so in this situation, I'm a mother. I have 2 kids. One of the kids I had in vitro. I was sick for 8.5 months. I'm physically attached. I created this human being that I want to succeed in life. Where on the other hand, emotionally, I'm trying to sacrifice so much for him to act right. I'm in this situation because he is not behaving in the way that is appropriate or compared to his other sibling in these situations. So I told Mom, hey, we have to behaviorally, once again, we have to separate parenting from emotion. Once again, I've never been a parent, so I don't know that attachment. I don't know, I don't have that sense of love for another human being that I've created. And so behaviorally, I'm telling parents, I understand that, but we need to attach because we know this is a behavioral issue. I understand that it's plausible that medication could have an effect. It is plausible that this, and this could have happened. But because we narrowed it down today and hypothesized that it was behavioral, attention seeking, my presence changed the entire outcome of the day, then lets you know that you guys can also have that control as well too. That staff should be able to have that control. That mom and dad should be able to have that control. So pull your parenting emotions out of it and let's tackle it behaviorally, because that's what it is. And so I had to highlight that to mom and dad and say, this is a behavioral episode. I know how much you love them. I know how much you'll sacrifice for your children. I know how much you'll do anything for your child. But right now he is using that against you because he is purposely doing things to manipulate the situation. Man, I felt like a preacher right there, but that's how it is, right? And so we don't want to, and I always tell you guys, we sacrifice, but at what cost, right? What cost to our sanity? What cost to going to the hospital, getting eight stitches down your hand and punching something? At what cost, right? We have to figure out at what cost are we willing to bend over backwards for our children who aren't willing to help themselves, that are fully capable of doing so. And so I broke that down again for parents. And I remember I told you guys that dad had a mantra that I will not let you disrupt my peace. And I said, Dad, what happened? I said, where was that last week? He had a brain lapse, right? In the moment, he forgot it. He didn't use it. I said, hey, tell yourself that every day, every situation, as best you can. I know it's a light switch, right? Today we could have a behavior. Today we could not. 10 minutes and now we can have another episode. As soon as I left, they could have had another episode. So it's a juggling act that is stressful as a parent, right? Versus what do I do as a parent versus what is this child doing purposely or behaviorally to get me to react a certain way. And that's a fine line that I've tried to highlight for parents in that situation is, okay, we do have to step back. And I'm here to help you guys step back because, like I said, I'm not a parent. So I don't understand that, but I do know my BCBA stuff. I know my behavior analysis. I know human behavior. And right now, your little human is behaving in a way that is socially inappropriate because he wants you to react in a certain way. And so by kind of outlining that for them, they kind of got another kind of aha moment. They kind of got another moment of a light bulb moment on another step up, right? So as much as the kiddo is upping his game, every time I meet the parents, I'm stepping their game up as well too, right? Because kiddos are going to get older. He's going to start cursing. He's going to be saying, fuck you, mom, or you effing suck, or, you bitch, or blah, blah, blah. All the stuff that he might start absorbing from school. Parents talked about that. We talked about that. Their mom and dad was like, I hope that moment never comes, but more than likely it will. And so I said, yeah, it'll mostly happen at school. He's going to learn the language. And when he's mad or yelling and screaming, instead of what he's doing now, when he's 13 or 14 or 15, he's going to start saying those things towards you as well. And we have to remember, you will not disturb my peace, and ignore it, right? And so in those situations, I tell parents that it's going to get worse, especially when they're younger and they get older. It's like we still have to, our strategies still are in motion. We just have to divvy them out differently. We have to utilize them more strategically. We have to find the most efficient way to do what we need to do in that situation to get the outcome that we want. And so today was just one of those moments where it was good because I haven't seen them in maybe a month and a half just due to the holidays and stuff. And like I said, I think sometimes, hey, things are going to go perfect. Everything is great. But as soon as you step in the door and you hear the screaming, it's like, all right, cool, I'm back in it. And that's what gives me life. That's what gives me passion, because I see the parents are stressed. I see the dad with bandages and stitches on. I'm like, all right, cool. We're back in the trenches, right? And so I'm back there with you guys. I'm there for another 2 to 3 hours to figure this out. So let's sit down and let's talk about it. And so that's pretty much what I wanted to tell you guys is removing the emotions as parents, because that is most important to see the big picture. A lot of the times parents are in the moments. They feel bad for their children. I don't want to hear them cry. I don't want to hear them yell or scream or do this or do that. But then when the ABA team or the BCBA comes in and we're thinking through a behavioral lens, we're able to identify triggers, we're able to identify reactions and outcomes of situations because it's human behavior. Because we know your son, because we know your triggers, because we know the micro levels of your parenting style, we're able to understand and dissect, okay, cool, you need to take a step back. Let me go in and see what happens. And so by that quick analysis, right, when I first opened the door, I said, okay, cool, let me talk to mom or dad for 5 or 10 minutes. Let me see what's going on. Let me talk to staff for like 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, cool. And I got a good picture and I said, okay, cool. I need to see if I can diffuse this situation. And I did by literally my presence. I didn't say anything. He saw me, his behavior changed, right? And so with that analysis, we're able to take ourselves out of the situation, remove the emotion, and tackle it behaviorally. And so that's what I want to leave you guys with today. Like I said, I'll be jumping on sporadically when I get the itch, when I get the feeling that I need to express something to you guys. You guys will jump on, so turn your notifications on, all that stuff. But that's what I just wanted to get across to you guys today, is just taking emotions out of those big behavioral episodes, right? Because at the end of the day, I ruled out that it wasn't a medical issue. There wasn't any sensory issues. There wasn't, we didn't deny access. We didn't, do any of those things, but it was more behavioral, attention-seeking behavior. Because as soon as the attention was gone and I was present, the behavior changed drastically. So that's it. Appreciate you guys. Tap in. I'll see you guys soon. Later.